Okay, in this video, we're going to be talking about two skills predominantly. One is evaluation, and the second is absolute value. Okay, so you should have a sense of how absolute value works before you come to this video. It'll assume a little bit that you've seen it. I think I have another video on absolute value. You may want to take a look at it first. So let's get into looking at evaluating expressions with absolute value. Well, evaluate, if we remember, often will require us to do two steps. And one is substitute values for variables, okay? And two would be to simplify. 9 out of 10 times it means to use PEMDAS when you do that, okay? So I'm going to do two quick examples here and see if that illustrates how to do something like this. Well, it says evaluate the expression x times the quantity of the absolute value 2 minus xy when x is 5 and y is 3. Okay, well, when we have that, um, we're saying that x and 5 are identical and y and 3 is identical. So in the given problem, I think instead of using this x, I'd rather use this 5 because they're the same thing. So that's going to take us to substitute values, excuse me, with an s for variables with an s because it's multiple times here. Okay, so I'm going to take out my x and put in my 5. Okay, so here I'm going to do that. 5, continue to write, times the quantity, 2 minus x again, which is 5. So I'll write 5 times y, which is going to be 3. So because it's multiplication, I will set it up with parentheses that will denote multiplication and then close off the absolute value expression. Just a quick reread here. We have x, absolute value, 2, 2, minus, minus, x, y, absolute value. So I've only removed things from the problem to replace them with things that are equivalent and easier to deal with. So from here, we follow our simplifying rules next, okay? Treating absolute value as if it is a grouping symbol. So we will simplify inside the absolute value first. We notice that we have minus n times. We should focus on doing the times first. Now, if you notice, I circled in the minus sign because I'll treat that as a negative when I go to process it. So right here, I'm going to do that part first. So writing from left to right, 5 times the quantity of the absolute value of 2. Negative 5 times 3 is negative 15. Closing off the absolute value. Sorry about that, I had to plug in a power source for my computer. So I will continue to work on the inside of the absolute value bars. So I'll do 2 minus 15. Okay, so that is going to create the next line of 5 times the absolute value of negative 13. And now I need to be able to do the absolute value. In this case, the absolute value of negative 13 is 13, so I write 5. Still doing multiplication times 13. Okay, so from there I will get 5 times 13 is 65. Okay, this is my final answer, that this expression that was given is equal to 65 when x is 5 and y is 3. Okay? So I'll do another example here of evaluating an expression with absolute value. Again, I'm going to follow the general notion of substituting the values in for the variables and simplifying using PEMDAS. So the expression here I have is the absolute value of the quantity, A minus B, divided by the absolute value of A minus the absolute value of B. So the first thing I need to do is substitute inappropriately. Okay, so I'm going to take my negative 3 and substitute it here as well as here. And then I will take my negative 2 and substitute it here for B as well as here too. Okay, so let me take out those pieces here and you'll be able to follow it a little better. So I have the absolute value of A, which again is negative 3, minus B, which is negative 2. I don't do any math when I plug in. I just set the problem up because that's a skill in and of itself. All divided by the absolute value of A, which is negative 3, minus the absolute value of B, which is negative 2. Okay? So here, I will now simplify using the idea of PEMDAS, and the thing that should jump out at me quickly is that I have to simplify inside this set of absolute value bars in the numerator because I have to get absolute value kind of down to one number before I do it, okay? So I'll continue to write in a downward fashion. Okay, so we have the absolute value of negative 3 plus 2 over the absolute value of negative 3 minus the absolute value of negative 2. Then I'll try and simplify the top even better and say it's negative 3 plus 2 is going to be negative 1. So the absolute value of negative 1 over the absolute value of negative 3 minus the absolute value of negative 2. And now that I've gotten all these absolute value expressions down to one number, I'll try and simplify them. The absolute value of negative 1 is 1, divided by the absolute value of negative 3 is 3. Pull down my minus sign. And the absolute value of negative 2 is 2. So continuing to simplify using PEMDAS, I just have 1 on top in the numerator, 3 minus 2 on bottom is going to be 1 is equal to 1. So just to show you the whole page, we simplify that again in the end. 1 over 1 equals 1. Okay? And that is that expression evaluated for the given values. Okay, so there takes a little patience in the writing here to kind of making sure that you're getting the absolute values down to one number on the inside before you take the absolute value. So I hope that's the kind of the next layer of using absolute value in a little more complex way in a problem where you'd have to evaluate and do some appropriate writing when you're asked to plug variables, values in for variables, and make sure you don't miss any signs on the way. I hope the color coding helps you understand that. So feel free to watch it again and feel free to practice.